or speak to someone on your team. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll tell you a lot about what I'm doing in the real estate investing game. I've done a lot of stuff. I haven't done it all. And so if I don't know the answer to a question, I'm just going to tell you I don't know. But I'll try to help you find out who can give you some sort of answer. So with that being said, who all in here invest in real estate already? You did. All right. What kind of real estate did you invest in? Townhouse. Okay. Oh yeah. So it's a long-term rental? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's back when he still remember how the companies like.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yep.
So, some of the first those and stuff that it as a company. So we have women that are CEOs and we're here and move back to like but I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It don't work out. I mean, and when I promised for 3 years, and then we got to fix renting rent.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. What about you guys back there? How many doors? Just one? Okay. Oh, very cool. Awesome. How's it doing? Awesome. Yeah. Nice. Congratulations. That's awesome. Other investors? I know.
Two of them, long time renters. And then we bought a couple of others, and they've been great. The rent's been great. Whenever one of the tenants leaves, in my husband and my children go into it and repair it.
Yeah.
So I'm spending $15,000. So it's been great. Now we just bought another property and we want to try to Airbnb for the first time.
Yeah.
Probably I'm here to ask a question about that.
Sure, sure. Is that local here?
It is local.
Okay. Very cool. Awesome. Awesome. Did I miss anybody? I ain't talking to you, Chris. I know you did. Yeah, yeah, sure. So we have one that was long term. You're not doing it anymore. It was okay. And do we have some short term? And do we have a long term with short term that you're thinking about? That you're thinking of? Okay. Clear. Nice. Awesome. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I suck at property management. I'm just going to be honest. I've heard that like if you're not mean enough to like evict a single mom on Christmas Eve, then you don't need to be in property management. That's not me. So yeah. But did I miss anybody? I'm sorry. Anybody else? Okay, good. So a little bit about me. So I actually got started investing in real estate in 2015. So it hasn't been that long ago. Before that, prior to that, my background is Chick-fil-A. Started working at Chick-fil-A when I was 17, worked all the way up to be an owner operator. And when I was 24 years old, they told me not right now. And with Chick-fil-A, when they give you the not right now answer, that means, hey, you're essentially on a 2-year wait list. But the only feedback that they gave my boss at the time was just have Jeremy continue working on his leadership. And my boss at the time, when he sat down and had that meeting, verbatim, and I remember it like it was yesterday, he was like, Jeremy, I have nothing for you. And for me, like that was a surreal experience for me, because I'm very big on learning and growing. And the fact that one of the top operators in our area has nothing else for me to learn, but Chick-fil-A is telling me, hey, keep growing. I just kind of got lost. And at that time, my wife, she was pregnant with our second child. And we always wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom. And so, like, I was a manager at Chick-fil-A. I promise you, the pay was not great. I think at my best at Chick-fil-A, I was making $37,000 a year. And then we're trying to, allow my wife to be a stay-at-home mom. And so we're trying to figure out a way to supplement that income. And so I started a commercial cleaning company. So I'd work at Chick-fil-A all day. And then we'd come in and we'd clean Chick-fil-A's all night. And a lot of folks don't even know this. Only a small group of people know the hustle that it truly was. And so we would work from 10 p.m. to 5:30 a.m., come home, sleep for a little bit, get up and do Chick-fil-A. And then when I got my real estate license, then I would do real estate during the day. And that was 6 nights a week. Chick-fil-A's closing Sunday. But it was a hustle. And the cleaning company wasn't bad until we started hiring employees. And those of you who don't have employees, you don't know, people working for you suck. It just is what it is, because no one's going to care about the business like you care about the business. And so you go from not only working in business, but managing people. And I hate it. I hated it. I still hate it. I'm in a position now where I could hire folks, but I don't want to. I enjoy, working with professionals who have their own reputation to protect. But anyway, we moving on. So we were doing all of that, and we decided to buy our first rental property in the Sherwood area over behind Shady Brook Elementary. Bought our first rental property over there in 2015, 2016, and we did everything wrong, everything. At the time, we paid too much for it. Now, we look like we knew exactly what we were doing, but at the time we paid too much for it. We put too much into renovation. I decided that I was going to manage the property myself. Remember, I just told you I suck at property management. That just justified that. So I ended up putting my godmother in that property. I mean, a lady who used to change my diapers when I was a kid, and I had to evict her. That sucked. And it was and it wasn't, but I had to evict her because she wasn't paying rent, but it wasn't her fault. She got diagnosed with breast cancer, had a heart attack, and got unintentionally let go of her job in a span of 3 weeks. 3 weeks. But so she obviously couldn't pay her portion of the rent, but I also couldn't afford to have 2 mortgages. And so that was a very difficult conversation. And it was at that point right now, I was like, I can't do property management. I just can't, because it just sucked. But it was about that time when I'm realizing, oh my gosh, am I going to give up on this? Because this whole experience is just horrible. But I'm just stubborn enough to keep going a little bit. And so at that time, I found biggerpockets.com. Anybody know biggerpockets.com? If you don't, join biggerpockets.com. It's free, completely free. And I'm not a free plug for biggerpockets.com, but it truly was what accelerated our real estate investing career. Now on that, they got free webinars, forums that you can connect with investors from across the country and around the world on a variety of different things. If you like short-term rentals, they do short-term rentals. If you like long-term land, construction, perm, anything, you can go into the forums and it's all free. It's all free. You don't have to pay. You can pay to be a pro member and have access, unlimited access to a lot of their calculators. And so, for example, in their tools section, if you like to do fix and flip properties, I have a fix and flip calculator. So you just plug in your numbers and it will build a report for you. So you have something that's nice and neat and that you can present to investors or for your own files. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, and it may have changed. I think you can do up to 5 of those reports with the free membership. Anything beyond that, you have to pay for it, but even still, it's not that expensive. I think it's like $300 for the whole year, and it gives you unlimited access. But anything and everything that you probably want to do, it's free. It's free. The Bigger Pockets podcast is what I found first. And so at the time, I'm doing the cleaning company. And so at night when I'm cleaning Chick-fil-A, it's like, instead of listening to music, I'm just listening to real estate podcasts all night long, 6 nights a week. And so like, it was just an education for me. Now, it was then when I reached out to a guy who was a local investor, and I set up a meeting to grab coffee. And that guy ended up being Chris. And so it's the first one that I reached out to on Bigger Pockets. We sat down at I can't remember the name of the Mexican restaurant now. Yeah. And we had lunch, we had coffee, and that relationship has, or that cup of coffee, that lunch has led to a very fruitful partnership. We've made a lot of money together. And I hope to continue partnering with Chris, but again, I wouldn't have found him if it wasn't for Bigger Pockets. So again, another plug for Bigger Pockets. If you're not already plugged in there, create a profile. It's free. Very, very good place to start. Now, for those of you guys who have not invested in real estate yet, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, I'm going to start from the very beginning. And so you can probably read my shirt. My mindset is everything. And you have to have that mindset, because if you start doing what we do, a lot of the times you're going to be out on this island and it's going to seem like that you're by yourself. And if you don't already have a positive mindset, or you look at the glass half empty, there's no way that you're going to survive that island, because especially in the very beginning, you're going to just be getting crushed by all those folks who say, hey, you can't do that. Family members who say, hey, you can't do that. And a lot of times it's not because they don't believe in you. It's just they don't want to see anything bad happen to you. So a lot of it might come from good intentions, but you'll still hear a ton of negative feedback. And you have to be able to overcome all of that. Again, for me, I'm just stubborn enough. If you tell me I can't do something, that's all I want to do. All I want to do. And so mindset is everything. I'm a very strong believer that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with. Start looking at your circle. Who are you around all the time? Are you around negative people? If you're around negative people, start weeding those folks out. Because if you don't, I'm not saying that you'll never get to where you want to be. It'll just be a long, hard road to get there, because they'll keep trying to bring you down. A lot of times it might be unintentional, but surround yourself with people who want to see you succeed and learn and grow, and folks who want to succeed, learn, and grow with you. Yeah.
But that's surround yourself if you're going to have some real estate problem solvers, not thinking about it before you got a little group. Laugh at them and that animal with some part of the body is so parachute down. But he wants to get something and we'll figure it out.
That's perfect. Again, it all starts with that mindset. I tell folks all the time, like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I grew up in a trailer park in Kannapolis. Single mom, worked night shift. I mean, lower income. That's where I came from. Worked at Chick-fil-A, $37,000 a year at its max. And Fast forward, like I said, I started investing in 2015, 2016. So from having no money at all to now, right now we hold close to $12 million in real estate. So in a span of 7 years. And so if I could do it, anybody can do it, but it starts with that mindset. For me personally, like I don't do a lot of stuff on social networking. Hosanna does everything for our group. And so one of the things about social for me, there's so much negativity in social media. And I have to separate myself from that because my wife and my kids at home are depending on me to do this thing that's completely out of the box, invest in real estate. And so I have to stay positive all the time. I have to be able to, again, problem solve. You know, perfect example. I was just telling the guy, hey, we just got another property under contract. No idea how I'm going to buy it, but I'll buy it. I'll be there with the money on close date. But again, I'm positive that whole time. So again, look at your circle. Who are you surrounding yourself by? If they're negative, even if it's family members, start weeding them out. I'm not saying completely shut them off, but just know who and what you're supposed to listen to. It'll change. Next thing is we all want to get in real estate investing for a reason. I'm sure you heard, what's your why? But I'll even dumb it down. What's your why? Is it for the money or is it for the freedom? Because those two options are going to take you two different directions. I mean, raise your hand. Who's in it for the freedom? I'm in it for the freedom. A little bit of both. And that's why. Who's just in it for the money? Because there's a lot of money into it. Okay, so I think we're all on the same page. It's freedom. And so it's figuring out, so I'm in it for the freedom. So one of the first things that I did is try to, all right, well, what income do I need to replace in order to provide that freedom? And so we just lined up all of our bills, our mortgage, power bill, whatever. And one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to retire my mom, make sure that she didn't have to work again. And so we came up with the number, me and my wife, of we need $8,000 a month. We're not super extravagant. All right, come on. We're not super extravagant spenders. And we do like nice things like everybody does, but we're not going to go out and blow $10,000 on just some random thing. So $8,000 a month, that's our number. If we hit that, then we've replaced our income. So know that number. And what you're going to find out is that once you know that number, it gives you something to work towards. And a lot of the times that number isn't as big as you make it sound in your mind until you start laying it out. Because when we started talking about retiring or income replacement, in my mind, I didn't even know the number. I'm just like, oh my God, there's no way. Like, how much should we spend? But that helps with that roadmap. And a lot of times, especially if you're chasing the freedom piece, that number isn't as big as you would always think. Now, if you're chasing the money, then still figure out what that number is, and then you can multiply it by however much you want. Has anybody already done that? Have anybody ever heard that? You have? What's your number? If you don't mind sharing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else thought about it? Heard it? No? Okay. That's fine. But two great places to start: mindset and that. Unless you want people to go ahead and grab food. Okay, that's fine, guys. If y'all want to go ahead and grab food, I'll. Okay. Chips and food. Any questions thus far? I know we're just getting started. Okay. I don't want to just ramble on and. Yes. My favorite right now, I enjoy Gary V. Anybody listen to Gary V? Now he could be a little bit crude, but he's very much in your face. But again, like even with those positive influences in your life, like not everything that Gary Vee says resonates with me. So you have to be able to pick and choose. Even you want those positive folks talking about it. Because again, like Gary Vee is a perfect example. Almost all of his podcasts now are on like cryptocurrency or NFTs. And he's been very big on like social media for forever. And I'm just not big on those things. I'm not saying that those things don't work. I'm just not very big on it. But I think for me overall is what's the message? And he's very big on, you know, do what you enjoy. You don't have to make $1 million a month. If you're doing what you enjoy and you make $5,000 a month, that's more important than making $1 million a month and doing something that you hate to do. Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I want bigger pockets.
Yeah.
Also, family to invest in Bitcoin, invest in stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris is a good leeway into what I'm going to talk about next. So like once you figure out your number, then reverse engineer it. Then start to figure out what you're interested in doing in investing. Now say investing, now I'm assuming that we're all in it for real estate investing, correct? Like I'm not talking to any like cryptocurrency investors or anything like that. Okay, good. That helps. So start, because there's a bunch of different paths of real estate investing that you can do. Start to figure out which one you think you might have some interest in it. Now, once you land on something, whether it be long-term or short-term or multifamily or note investing, take that and take 50 hours to do your research and educate yourself on that topic. 50 hours. On hour 51, take action on it. Because what you're going to figure out is in that 50-hour time frame, either you're going to get more passionate about that subject, or you're going to figure out that, I don't really want to do this. And if you figure out that you don't really want to do this, guess what? There's something else that you can start investing your time in. Now, start back over. 50 hours to invest that new topic. And then hour 51, take your first step on it. Now, as you're educating, you will figure out what's the next step in your research of that topic. Now, when I talk about research, read books, podcasts, real estate forums. All you got to do, like again, bigger pockets, is if you're interested in short-term rental properties, go to the forums, Airbnb, and then you're going to get flooded with about 10,000 forums that investors all over the country have added their 2 cents on. Or go to the podcast, Airbnbs. You're going to get flooded with, 20 or so podcasts. Again, do those. And then there's plenty of books and plenty of YouTube videos out there on any of those topics. And best of all, they're all free. If you can get out of doing a paid mentorship, save your money to invest that money in real estate. Don't give it to someone else, because I promise you they're taking that money and they're investing it in real estate. But so 50 hours, hour 51, take action, do something. Don't get caught and just educate yourself over and over and over and over again and not ever take an action. You're not ever going to go anywhere. The folks who make it big in this game take massive amounts of action. I'm not saying quit educating yourself, because you always want to educate yourself. I don't care how big you get in this game. But just remember. Any questions?
What do you have?
So I have a little bit of everything. So I do have long-term rentals. I have several short-term rentals. I property manage for some short-term rental clients. I own an apartment building, some storage facilities. We're building a big self-storage facility in Kannapolis. And so it's a broad spectrum. I kind of get bored real easy, and so I'm just I grew up lower income, and I'm just like, man, I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and so I cast a wide net. Now, as I'm getting older and getting a little bit wiser, my view is starting to very much become a little bit narrower. And so like coming in, like my focus right now is going to be mobile home parks, self-storage facilities, and laundromats. Those are my three. What I'm really figuring out, like, this is really what I'm interested in. This is some serious generational money that we can make. Yeah.
Yeah. Any real estate outside of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I do still practice real estate. Like I was just telling Ivan, last year my business did $1.1 billion. Out of that $1.1 million, $30,000 of that was real estate commissions last year. And so it's getting to the point, well, I mean, it was already at the point last year. Like I partnered with Hosanna. Hosanna carries our entire real estate business. I'm just a phone call for her or an email, and if she has questions at this point. Honestly, I got tired of making other people rich. I got tired of making other people rich and then us only make 3% on a transaction. Now, I know 3% on some transactions is a lot of money, but when you look at what other folks are making on these deals, like I had one client, it was 2020. I'm not lying. I made him millions of dollars, and I maybe made like $60,000 on that thing. And how can you ever get on top doing that? Now, obviously, making $60,000 is much better than the $37,000 I was making at Chick-fil-A. But if I could work, I mean, because I was already working hard for him, what if I could work that hard for me? And that was the pendulum swift for me. And so now coming into 2023, I'm severely halting all of my real estate transactions now. Friends, close friends and family, yeah, I'll help them out. I'll always be there for Hosanna if she has questions on anything. But if for me, I'm just tired of making other people rich. If I'm going to spend the time, the resources, and energy, I want it to be for me and my family. And I think that's why we all got into this game. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yep. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. So the ones that I manage, so I manage the ones that we own in the partnership together. And then I have one other close friend that his dad just got into it. So I'm managing 4 for him. But again, it's not something that I'm ruling out. But again, for me, it's all about the freedom. So I think where I am is kind of at the peak that I want to be. But with that being said, Hosanna wants to manage short-term rental properties, and yeah, and she already does 50% of everything we do anyway. So that's always an option as we do grow and get bigger. I mean, again, your wants, your interests change, and that's the beauty of real estate investing. You know, you feel comfortable doing this, and you've built processes around it, and you want to go and do that. Go and do that. Open a laundromat. Go manage, other short-term rentals for other folks. But that answer that question? Okay. Yeah. Yes.
First rental property, how did you go about your financing versus what you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. So almost committed mortgage fraud. Almost. So we bought our first home through State Employees Credit Union, no money down. Our second home, which was right here in Kannapolis, they counted it as a vacation home. And so we were able to buy that one with 10% down. Again, not knowing what you don't know, this was before Chris, before I knew anything about real estate. I didn't know that you had to disclose what's going to be the use of that property. And so I'm sitting at the closing table, and I just mentioned that, yeah, we're going to put a renter in there. And the attorney's like, what? I'm like, oh, shit. I don't remember what I said. To be honest with you, they ended up letting it go through, and we did put a renter in it. I'm not in jail, but again, I didn't know. Again, what the attorney told me after the fact was like, you should disclose that to your lender at the very beginning. And I'm going to be honest. Yeah, because the bank would have wanted 20% down instead of the 10 because they counted as a vacation property. And again, like I didn't know, I did not know. And I thought they were just trying to help me get in with less money down. So, yeah, absolutely. And so, and that's what shocked us. So we're able to take out a home equity line of credit on our primary residence. So we bought that property in 2014 in Kannapolis. We paid $77,000 for it. And that's kind of unbelievable to pay right now for 3-2. And it was like teetering on a short sale. So we got at a great deal. We're able to open up a home equity line of credit through St. Louis Credit Union. We got $33,000 on our primary. So we took that $33,000, and that was about the time that we got synced up. I got synced up with Chris, and I met our other partner, JR, and we flipped our first 2 properties on Jackson Street. And that was a whole other learning experience. Blew down tile, you remember that? Yeah. And so, and that's how we started. And it just grew from there. But it started with the home equity line. And so that was money that we didn't have. It was just go to the bank and get it. But that, because I didn't have any money at that point. I didn't have any money. So the only income I had at that point was just Chick-fil-A income. Yeah. And then I think at the time my wife, she was working part-time at Wells Fargo. Yeah, I mean, so it was very little income that we had. But it was just enough to get us that 30K. And so what that has taught me is, hey, well, maybe I can do even more with little to no money. And that's kind of how I invest now is with little to no money of my own money out of my pocket. We'll touch on that as we go. But yeah, that's how we got started with the HELOC. And then later on down the road, when we got the first tenant out of my godmother out of our rental property, they credit union allowed me to open up another HELOC on that property. Apparently, I'm not supposed to do that either, but they allowed me to do it, so I took it. And so now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I have access to what was it, like $76,000, and so now I have $76,000 to go out and play with. Yeah, I'm just able to turn that and keep turning it. You had a question. Yeah, great question. So a lot of times I'll say we. At this point in time, when I say we, it was me and my wife. Yeah, she's my partner in crime. But as we started to grow and gain partnerships, when I say we, I'm talking about Chris and Ivan and our other partner, JR. Yeah. Any other questions so far? Yes.
Why did you create your own entity for this business? You were by yourself at first, right?
Yeah.
LLC.
Yeah. So we created our investing LLC in 2016. This was right after I became a real estate agent, and again, leading up to that point, I didn't know. I just didn't know. So we created that LLC in 2016. Yeah. We did that on one property, which was just a simple quit claim deed. I think that the attorney set up for us. Yeah, so a couple of short-term rental properties that we have up in the mountains. We took the loan out in our personal name, and we cleared it with the lender first, but they allowed us to quit claim it into the business name. Yeah, clear that with the lender first. No, because if you read. Yeah, but if you, I mean, because there's always like that fine print that they could call the loan due if it switches entity names, and you don't ever want to get caught with your pants around your ankles like that. Yes, ma'am. So I do have a CPA. My CPA is with Gerald Drive here in Concord. I'm not great at accounting. I'll be the first one to admit to you. It's not my strong suit. I hate being behind a computer running the business. I hate it. I enjoy being out, meeting with contractors, walking properties, negotiating real estate. That's my thing. I hate being stuck behind a computer. So my accountant handles anything and everything. Now, with that being said, I'm probably way overdue for maybe interviewing other accountants to make sure I'm saving the most money possible. Because we're really starting to make some serious cash, and which is a great thing, but also a bad thing. We have to go pay the IRS X amount of it. But, yeah, go grab you some food. Tea, please. Anybody on Zoom have any questions? I'm sorry.
No, not at this time. Am I mute?
All right, guys, we'll bring it back together in about 5 more minutes. We're just waiting on Chris back there. All righty, guys, we'll bring it back in. Ivan, man, come on. My goodness. Right, but, all right, so picking up where we left off, or at least I think we are, all right, and so, 50 hours of research, learning and growing, hour 51, taking action. And taking action is key. I was just talking to Chris, back when I first got my real estate license. I remember coming into the office all the time. There was a group of agents that would always be in the office talking about how to grow their business. Always in the office talking about how to grow their business. Whether or not they were growing their business, I don't know. I just know that they were always talking about growing their business. And I would come into Chris's office and be like, oh, they're here again. Or are they actually doing what they're talking about? Analysis paralysis is a real thing. Anybody in here ever had that with anything? Yeah. What do you got? What do you have it about? Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll stay stuck in this. I'm not very conservative.
Yeah.
I think that really that we have worked so hard.
Sure.
I'm scared, so I can analyze it all day, but how am I going to first make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Mhm.
But I don't want to rent my personal home. To buy another home.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely get it. I absolutely get it. Just talking to Chris a minute ago, and he mentioned something. He's echoed it ever since I've met him. Scared money don't make money. Now, yeah. With that being said, there are ways to leverage yourself. Obviously, buy right. That's the first step, is to buy right. Now, figuring out what to buy, yes, that's a whole different story. But it also starts with who you're surrounding yourself by. And so when I used to live in the area, because I don't live in the area anymore, we live up in the mountains. I hosted a real estate meetup the first Tuesday of every month at French Express in Kannapolis, coffee with investors. And it was some days we filled the place up. Some days it was like 2 other people, but it gets you around other like-minded individuals, because I promise you 90% of the investors are right where you are. And it helps to know that you're not the only one, but you also need that other 10% that's, here's something that you can do to help get yourself out of that mindset, because again, that's all mindset. But if you never get out of that mindset, it's not ever going to happen. It's just not. And especially now, I mean, because the market's only going to keep going, or at least we hope it's only going to keep going up. So it's going to become more and more difficult to find better deals. There's never a better time to start investing than right now. Yeah. But anybody else suffer from analysis paralysis? I have. I got you with your mouth full. Yeah. But again, that's a serious thing. But truly, the only way to get around that, get yourself around other folks that help you learn and grow and get yourself out of it. Read books, podcasts, real estate meetups. I mean, Facebook is a great place to find those meetups. And if there's not a meetup in the area, which there are, but if there's not, start one. Start one. I promise you, know from experience. Yeah.
One time I used one. Let's talk about this. Most investment opportunities is apartment building or units. Word.
And when my father passed away, when he passed away, he was bringing in the home that I grew up in, and he did complain. And they were liberated the property and they crashed it.
Yeah.
We had to go back to them. They literally, the shower, stand-up shower had a clog, and rather than call me, you come in and clog and some water, flow out into the floor, so it's a dump wide, so keep walking on the shower rather than just making a phone call, and chasing Brent. The money that has to come back in and repair the home. So when my father died, we had another renter in there, and it was hard. I'm gonna make these repairs, I'll stay at home, my husband was working 2 jobs.
Sure.
So when the HVAC went out, I had to be, I think for my family,
Sure.
to fix these things. And they fix a lot of things that I don't even know about today.
Yeah.
But anything, a phone call.
Mhm.
And those are not just, but having the ability to maintain the property and to repair it.
Sure.
That's nothing ever happened with mine.
Yeah, absolutely. But it sounds like that particular investment is just something that kind of just fell into your lap. And so like you didn't go out and you didn't buy that one. And so in many ways, I think like if you would have went out and tried to buy something like that, you probably would have been in a better position because you know, most likely you would have got a home inspection. You would have found out about a lot of that stuff. And one of two things you would either happen, you would have not bought it, or you would have been able to negotiate repairs or money off or something like that. And so I feel you on that one. I mean, my second renter that I tried to manage, brand new home. We put $75,000 into the renovation, brand new. They were in it for 7 months and cost $35,000 more in damage. Yeah. And that was the last time that I did property management. But I feel you. But I'm a huge believer on like, all right, well, what could I have done to help leverage myself? There's a great book, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, Leif Babin. You might ever read that? It's a great one. So it's Extreme Ownership by Leif Babin and Jocko Willink. And I think Jocko Willink has a podcast. So Jocko and Leif, they're retired U.S. Navy SEALs, and so they wrote this book. So they own a consulting company now, but they tie in the philosophy of everything that happens, whether it's something that you've done. If I have a hand in it, I need to take extreme ownership of every single thing. Because we're going to do one of two things. The most important is going to do is you're going to quit looking for someone to blame, because you're taking that blame. And what could I have done that could have changed the situation? And so for me, in both of my experiences managing properties, I put folks in there that I already knew. I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't screen them. I didn't background check them. I didn't do anything. I just put them in there because I knew them. And it came back and it bit me in the rear end. Not their fault, it's my fault. Now I couldn't change what they had done in my properties. I couldn't change them not paying rent. But if I would have done my job in the front end, I would have saved myself all that trouble in the back end. But I kind of forgot what we were. So analysis paralysis. That's what. No. But yeah. So analysis paralysis. Like I said, if there are not groups around here, start one. And what you'll find out, like if you're able to start one, you become that center of that sphere of influence. And what you're going to notice is folks are going to start coming to you. Because you're the leader of the group. They'll start coming to you with conversation starters that get you talking about real estate or whatever group that you're a part of. If it's real estate, you'll get deals brought to you just because you're the leader of that group. And so Now, with that being said, a lot of times if you're the leader of that group, they're going to look to you to carry the conversation of the group. I would almost say, like, every time we met, about 80% of the time, I had to lead the discussion. Sometimes I didn't know what we're all talking about, to be honest with you. They were looking at me, and so like it was very much just started like, hey, here's 5 minutes. Here's what I'm doing right now. Not much has changed in my business, but we're still meeting. Is there anything that I can help you guys with? And just start talking about real estate. Yeah, start a group, get involved. Yeah. It's good to have folks like that. I mean, because you are going to go through struggles. Like I mentioned at the very beginning of this, like so much of the time you're going to feel like you're on this island all by yourself. And that's a sucky place to feel, especially when all of your friends and family, all they've ever done is work a 9-to-5 job. They're not ever going to know the troubles that you're mentally going through. So it definitely helps having folks that you could just shoot out a text message and be like, hey, my renter ain't paid rent in like 6 months. What in the world do I do next? It helps. All of those things help. So again, I mean, that's where we are. Any questions? Anything? Yes.
There's going out and getting money.
Mhm.
Me and my husband are kind of very traditional in the sense that we want to sleep very pleasant in our room, knowing that we don't go spending our.
Sure.
I know and I heard that it's a kind of niche. And I know I can get probably more money with to just go get mortgage and invest rather than using all the time you have and be a kind
Sure.
of free. But you know, more
Yeah, sure.
happy about it. What do you think about it?
So I would almost counter with, because it truly comes back to happiness. What's going to make you happy? If you find what makes you happy, I don't care what anybody else says. Do you? Can you, if you utilize other people's money, whether it's a private investor or a lender, yes, you can buy more. But if it's going to provide more stress to you, don't do it. Don't do it. If you find your comfort zone and that's where you want to live there. I have so many issues with, I mean, in America, so often we're perceived, if we own a business, we have to keep growing every single year. And I saw in Chick-fil-A a ton. And it always drove me crazy. Every year, we would have to, what they call, hit symbol of success. We have to increase our business over last year by 15%. I'm not saying don't grow your business, but sometimes, you know, if it needs to be sustainable. If it gets to the point to where you're not happy anymore, then you've done something wrong. You've grown it too much. And because if it provides stress to you and your family, again, it's all about happiness. Why are we doing this? To provide freedom. You essentially made yourself, you're not free anymore. You've created this monster that now you feel obligated that you have to keep feeding. All of that. And I was right there when I did the cleaning business. You know, again, my thought process, because I was coming from all those years at Chick-fil-A and seeing my mentors in the business grow the business every single year. So subconsciously, I'm just like, I have to grow this thing. If I don't grow this thing every single year, I'm not successful. And so what happened, I grew it to the point where I had to go out and hire more employees. More employees meant more problems. And I'm the owner. I have to fix those problems. We have clients that we have to perform for every single day. And it just got to the point where it just sucked. And that's a sucky place to be in a business that you've made sucky place to be. And so again, I would counter, like, if you enjoy paying cash for everything, yeah, you're going to grow at a slower pace. But if you have that peace of mind, that's worth it. Yeah. That's a conversation you have to have when you. Yeah. And just taste happiness and freedom. Yes.
But.
I do. Yeah, so doing my taxes is horrible. I pay my account so much money. So I have like 4 or 5 LLCs. Yeah, I do. So I have my short-term rentals in one LLC, apartment building in another LLC, or self-storage is in another LLC. Is it 1 or 2 LLCs? One, and then we own a mixed-use commercial property that's in another LLC. The accountant loves me comes tax time. If I got to pay for all those returns, but yeah, I mean it helps you. It's all about being leveraged, and so no one comes after you, and they, yeah, that way if you get sued, they can't get everything. Protection. But I'm also the opposite from you, like, and it might be coming from my background, not ever having any money. And so like, for me, it's like, how can I buy more and use little to none of my own money? And so I leverage other people's money, hard money, and loans from banks to buy more property. And then I have those liens on those property. And so it helps out that if someone does come back and sue me, attorney's going to be like, well, he owes like this amount of money on this property. You're not going to get anything from it. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so I would speak to your accountant first. I also have Robert Kreitz at a Concord. He's an attorney. He's established a couple of LLCs for us. I've also established a couple of LLCs on LegalZoom. I don't know if they're done right, but I got my nice little packet. I'm now in business. And yeah, it's difficult there. Those are single person, but yeah, when you start to get into partners, I'd definitely get an impartial third party in there, because they're going to help you cross those T's and dot those I's on stuff that you might not even think of. Because the biggest thing when it comes to partnership, as long as everything is going the way it should be, it's fine. The minute that it becomes difficult and partners want to start to separate, if you don't have in those articles of how it's going to be handled, it can be very messy. I know we had one K-Town Homes that was a LLC that we used to flip homes in, and then when I decided that we were going to move to the mountains 3 years ago, I don't know, somehow in my mind I'm just like, well, I'm not doing any more business in Kannapolis. I was dumb. And so we dissolved that LLC, but it was a seamless transaction because we had already pre-planned that if this happens, these are the steps that we're going to take. And attorney was instrumental in that. Yeah, but any partnerships definitely have an impartial third party. But if it's single member LLC, LegalZoom is a little bit expensive. I think last time I did it, $600, $700. But again, they do everything. They'll establish your business name and get the proper license and all that stuff. So. Any other question? Yes. Yeah. Yes. And that's how I established my, when I started my cleaning company, I did that too. But again, like I didn't know. And so like, I'm just going through the process. Oh, I got to do this. And oh, now I have to do this. But yeah, it's definitely possible.
Can you tell us about hard money loans?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, hard money loans is exactly, I mean, it's not hard to get if the deal's there. Hard money loans is definitely all about the interest rate, because you're going to pay for that loan. In my experiences with the hard money loans that we have done, I've used several companies. I could provide Melissa with the names of those companies, and she can get it to everybody. A lot of companies, they want to see if an investor has had a track record of flipping a home, or long-term rentals or whatever. And the more of a track record that you have, the better rates that you're able to get. So if you're just starting out and you've never flipped a home or any of that, I mean, I would expect to pay 10 to 15%, to be honest with you. But if you don't have any money, I wouldn't get hung up on that 10 to 15%. Again, they're giving you all of that money. And so like you're paying 10 to 15% on money that you wouldn't have had to begin with. And I run into so many investors that they get so hung up on that. But I'm just like, well, you're costing yourself this amount of money back in. But the more projects that you do, the better rates a lot of them are able to give you, especially if you stick with some of the same ones, because they're all about creating those relationships as well. Because it does cost them money to go out, marketing dollars to go out and try to find other investors to come out and lend to. Yeah. To answer your question, any specific question?
I just want to know what it is, because I know whenever a lot of people put money, they're like, oh, that's hard money loan.
Yeah. I mean, and again, so it's just high interest money. That's all hard money is. And it can be really easy to get as long as the deal is there. And that's the key point. So if you have a property that you can make money on, they can make money on, they'll lend on it. And they're analyzing that deal if you, for whatever reason, default, they're going to take that property and they're going to sell it and get their money back. Yeah, so it's all based on the deal. Yes. No, it's typically never 100% financing, because they want to see that you have skin in the game. Yeah, and that's the big thing. I think, again, I have relationships with several hard money lenders. I think that the best rates that I've been able to get, it's like 10% down with like 8% interest. And then there's some origination, points that you'll have to do and all of that. But again, it's as long as you have the deal. Without that, you can't get the deal. And so, yeah, I'm fine with paying that. Yes.
The first price.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Maybe I misspoke there.
So if you're buying a construction company or
Sure. Yeah. So I'll use a real. Yeah. So I'll use a real world example. We just closed on a home that we used hard money on 3 weeks ago. We bought the home. Sorry, let me remember the number. Bought the home for $273,000. And then the hard money loan, the rehab loan that we got on it that they held in escrow was $47,000. And so we had to come to closing with $37,000. That's how much we had to make up on our end, but they lent the rest of that. And then for us, when I say us, me and my wife, because she's the GC on that project, we went out and we found a private lender to give us that $37,000, and we're going to give them 10% interest on their money. But now all of a sudden we have a property that we did with no money at all. So 3 weeks, no property coming soon now. So stand to make like $80,000 on that one. Good question. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Money lender? Yeah. Yeah, it was our group. Yeah, it was our group. And so, yeah, just networking with other people. The money is out there. It's crazy to think, but finding the money now is the easiest part of the business. I think finding the deals is the hardest part. But that deal that I just told you about, we found it on the MLS in Hickory. And so like, there's still deals out there. Just have to be constantly searching. So how we're able to get our deal flow, Facebook Marketplace is a big one. Haven't had a lot of luck on Craigslist, but I do know a lot of investors that do. I have yet to find a good wholesaler because now everybody can be a wholesaler. I would counter that with always know your numbers. Always know your numbers. I don't care what anybody else says, know your numbers. And again, Bigger Pockets could help out with that, with those rental calculators or those fix and flip calculators if you don't know where to start. But, yeah. Yes, ma'am. It can be. Yeah, it can be. I would get an attorney to draw up a lending agreement for you. And then don't be scared to hold your borrowers to everything that they agreed to in that contract. But again, it's all about how you want to invest. I don't lend privately, but I take other people's money all day. But just yeah. So I've done 2 of those. So
Is anything like different?
So the 2 loans that I did were on a short-term rental property that I did. Lord, cash out refinance. Yeah, so I got those 2 loans on a cash out refinance on 2 Airbnbs that I owned in the mountains. Great program. I had a very bad experience on my second one. And it wasn't anything that was due to the loan. It was just some oversight that a bunch of people had. And I ended up doing a cash out refinance that took me 9 months to close. And that was one of those types of loans. Yeah, it took me 9 months to do a cash out refinance on a property that I owned outright. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things, man, if it could go wrong, it happened to me on that transaction. And so like I owned these, it was a duplex and a single family that when I bought it, I used a hard money loan and private money. So I bought it with no money out of my own pocket. They were on the same parcel. And so one of the first things that we did is we split the parcel right down the middle. Single family went with its own piece of land and the duplex went with its own piece of land. We used a hard money loan to renovate the single family, and then we turned the single family into Airbnb property, and we let it season for a year. So I had the financials to back it up. We went and we did a DSQR. I can never remember. Yeah, DSCR loan on it, which I don't know. Yeah. So it's essentially like a bank statement loan. So instead of like, yeah, well, they're not looking at your tax returns. They're just looking at, hey, can your bank statement support this person? The lender that I go with, it's 20% down, and as long as you have the money in there, they'll fund it. And they'll fund them all day long. As long as you have the 20% down, you have the credit to support it and the money to support it, they'll fund them all day long. But this particular instance, I already own the property, and so I was just trying to do a cash out refinance to pay off the hard money loan. The single family went off without a hitch. When I went to go do the exact same thing with the duplex, we use a title company on the single family instead of a closing attorney, and the title company unintentionally put a lien on the duplex. And it was recorded and everything. We didn't find out about it until underwriting found out about it. And I was going through 2 lenders at the time. And this was about the time when the rates started to go back up. And to give you an example, so like the single family for me, I got at 4%. The duplex, I got at 9.4%. And so like they shot up nuts. It was also out in a rural area as well. But that one took me 9 months. And one of the lenders I was trying to go through, everything was on schedule Thursday night. Friday morning, they shut their doors and went out of business. And we had to start all the way back over with another lender. It was nuts. It sucked. If my 2022 could have been summed up in a couple of words, it's waiting on a refinance. I'm not, yeah. But and I had like $220,000 that was like tied up into that. But it took some time and a lot of footwork on my end and our lender's end. But when we were able to pull out of those, we ended up making like $90,000 on that deal. And I still have 3 Airbnb properties that make me money every month. And they gave me $90,000 to own my own properties. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, like we didn't lose, but it did take all of 2022, I tell you. Yes, ma'am.
What's the idea percent for the regular rental? What we do?
Every investor is different. I'm sure everyone has heard the 1% rule. Everybody heard the 1% rule? So if you can rent a property out for 1% of what you paid for it, then you're doing pretty good. I think the 1% rule can be very hard to come by, especially in the market that we're in right now. But it truly is what makes you happy in your investing. I like to try to double my money as much as I can. And for me, I do have some long-term rentals. There's not near money in long-term rentals as there is in short-term rentals. And I'm sure you guys can attest to that. But, and I mean, perfect example, like I own our first primary rental, our first primary residence, when we transitioned to the mountains, we turned that into a long-term rental. My mortgage on it was like $500 a month. We were making like $1,100 a month on in rents. And so like we were clearing like $600 a month. Awesome, man. I thought it was my cash cow. And we ended up transitioning that property into a long-term rental. And like last month, it made $5,200 a month. I mean, it was like 5 times what we were making. And that's game-changing money. Yeah. It's a
all that stuff.
You can
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you have to deal with the rehab though. Yeah. But there's a ton of ways that you can, invest in real estate. Just figuring out which one is going to work best for you. And then, like I said, educate yourself on that strategy, take action on that strategy. And if at any point in time, like you realize that, hey, this isn't for me. Like I don't like short-term rentals, it's just too much legwork. Don't be scared to, I wouldn't even say chalk up the 50 hours that you spent doing your homework on it, because you've learned something. At the minimum, you've learned that, hey, I don't want to do this. But don't be scared to start over and make sure you take action. That's going to be key. Yeah. Honestly, man, I don't know. I don't know. In so many ways, I wouldn't consider myself a savvy investor. Like a lot of my investments have truly come from, I'm still a kid at heart and I want everything that I never had. And so I legit was taking my dog to the groomer across the street and saw the for sale by owner sign. And I was like, I gotta have it. And we walked the property and it was, so the property was listed at $295,000. And it was horrible. Horrible. Yeah, it was the current. Decking boards coming up, like falling off the board, falling off the deck as you're walking across it. We go into some of these units and all the units are heated by space heaters. And so they have drop cords hanging all over the place. You're stepping over stuff. And I don't know, like I'm looking at it now, I'm like, oh man, we should have passed on that. But but again, though, it's how can we do it by putting as little or no money of our own money into this thing. And so Chris and Ivan and JR, they ended up passing on it. And I'm the only naive one was like, well, I'm going to make it work. And so I went out and I found another partner. And he was looking to park some 1031 money from a sale of some property in Massachusetts. And so we bought that one together. We went to a local credit union. We presented them the property. Again, we had the deal. We got the deal. And they were able to give us a $500,000 construction loan on it that they were then going to allow us to cash out refinance on the back end. So they gave us a year to do the work and $500,000. And so now all of a sudden we have $500,000 that we have to fix this place up, and that $500,000 is not coming out of our own pocket. And so we did exactly what they wanted us to do. We put $500,000 into it. The property was it was renting out at like $300 a month, and so we've more than doubled the rents on it now. And I think at its best, like it was producing like $3,400 a month. It was 16 units. Now it's producing just shy of $10,000 a month. And the bank that we went to, again, when rates started going up, they came back to us and said, well, we're not going to allow you to cash out refi, because they were going to allow us to cash out refi $800,000. That would pay off the $500,000 loan, and that would allow us to pull our money back out plus $20,000. So we could have made $10,000 each on it, not have spent any money, and still have that asset that's producing that amount of money a month. But what they did allow us to do is just wrap that $500,000 construction loan into a 20-year term loan at like 5% interest. And so now we just calculate that in as fixed cost every month. And again, we generated $500,000 out of thin air that we didn't have to pull out of our own pocket. So just the purchase price, which was 90,000. Yeah. But again, like if the market wouldn't, if the rates wouldn't have went up like they were, we would have been able to pull all of that money back out. And so, yeah, it's still just, I think about it, it's just sitting in a savings account. So the property is worth now, the valuation that we got on it's like 1.2 million. We paid 295 for it and then got $500,000 in construction. Again, it's just figuring out a way, and you have to be able to talk to folks, and don't be scared to talk to a lot of folks. And yeah, with that. How about my apartment?
No.
Yeah. No, it wasn't abandoned. No, there was so Ashe County, yeah, Ashe County, where we live now, is very big on Christmas trees. That's like their #1 export up there, and so they deal a lot with migrant workers that come up from Mexico, and so the housing demand up there for the farmers, the tree farmers, to put their workers is super high, and so the guy that we bought it from, that's pretty much all that was in there. Like, I'm talking about, God, there was one unit. I'm talking about 400 square foot unit, had 8 guys staying in it. And yeah, and so like they're living in these cramped conditions, but the owner, he knew what he was leasing out. He wasn't putting no money into it. Any work that was done to it, he did himself. I spent $500,000 correcting his mistakes. But again, so like there was a ton of value add there, and you just have to figure out how you're going to get through these 2 years of headaches. But in that circumstance, like, it was really easy to find the money to fix it up, because again, we had the deal, we had the asset. Being up there, though, I mean, we're talking about moving from here. There's 80,000 people that live in the city of Kannapolis. There's 16,000 people that live in the whole county up there. And so down here, like, if you need a plumber, you can jump on your phone and you have like 20. Up there, we have three plumbers. And out of those 3, it's very, if you don't know who the owner is, you ain't getting on his list and stuff. Like, I'm this outsider trying to find a guy to do it. It was hell, to be honest with you. What we should have done was evict everybody. That's what we should have done. But the human side of me was like, we're going to make 16 people, or however many people were living at that time, homeless. I can't do that. So we bought it in July of 2020. We have COVID going on. And winters up there suck because it's in the mountains. And I can't make these people homeless, because housing up there is even worse than housing down here. There's just nowhere to rent, because most everything up there's short-term rental properties, not long-term anything. And so we had to evict a couple of folks. And so our strategy was, all right, we're going to evict these folks, we're going to renovate these units, and then we'll just play Tetris. We'll move this guy down to this one, and then we'll do that one. It looked great on paper. It didn't go that smooth, I promise you. So we, the first one went okay, and then all of a sudden we had a plumbing leak, and the ceiling fell in on a lady, and I mean, it was, yeah, eventful. But again, like, I mean, you know, we get paid for dealing with the headaches. That's where we make our money. And those headaches, again, you know, if you have friends who work a 9-to-5 job, they're never going to understand those headaches. Never. Yeah. Jesse and Erica, my closest friend ever. I mean, he works at Wells Fargo. I try to have conversations with him, and it's just way over his head. He has no clue what I'm talking about. And on those circles, it takes a lot to get through those situations. A lot of stress, a lot of, you know, under your breath cuss words. But yeah. All of them have separate bank accounts. And I do all of my I do my bookkeeping on QuickBooks. I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way. I find it easy, and then I'm able to give my accountant access to everything. And so come tax time, he can just go on and pull any reports that he needs. Again, I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way. That's what's easiest for me. But there are plenty of other companies that do. Any other questions? Anything that maybe I didn't cover that I could? Yes.
So like Chris was saying, like you don't have diligence money, right? When you're purchasing, but what about proof of funds? Like the sellers asking, well, we need some proof of funds.
Yeah, so if you're going hard money, hard money lender will provide you a proof of funds. And a lot of times, especially if you've done business with them before, they'll just tell you, hey, what do you want us to put on this? And so like my proof of funds letter with one hard money company is like 1.5 million. I ain't never gonna spend 1.5 million. Well, I tell you, if a deal comes along, I will spend 1.5 million. I don't know where I'm gonna find that money, but I'll find it. But you can just tell them. And so like the proof of funds, that's easy. If you ever do put due diligence money down, try to make it as low as possible. Even honestly, try to make it as low as possible. Even if you lose a couple $1,000, it saves you from a year of headaches. That's still money well spent. And still do your due diligence on that property.
Yeah.
Get a home inspector in there. I've learned that the hard way. Not doing good enough due diligence. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, so I always try. Yeah, I always try due diligence money, but I always have it in my mind. I have a maximum amount that I'm willing to go up to. I'm not willing to risk any more than 1,000, but that's just me. And so I always write offers with nothing, just to see what they're willing to go. And I just, if they need something, I just use that as a negotiating tactic. That's just me.
And people push back on you.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Not always. So we just found the property. It's up in the mountains. It was on market. I submitted the offer 10,000 less than what they were listing it for, with $100 earnest money. That was it. So like if I back out of that, then it was $100. Yeah. Again, don't be scared to know, because you're going to hear it all the time. I mean, I would even argue just go write offers just to hear no, just to start, training your brain. It's okay to hear no. Sometimes you might be surprised. There was one point in time where I would write like 5 offers a day, and they would all be on the market, and I would just churn them out, and it'd just be half price of everything. Probably about 90% of the time, I would get a counter back with maybe taking, not half price, but then maybe taking $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 off the list price. And I would have never have known that. Now those numbers still didn't work. But I would have never known that if I wouldn't submitted a half price offer. Sometimes you never know what's motivating a seller unless you ask. Alrighty, guys. Well, again, recap everything. Mindset is everything. Get your mind right first. Get your circle right. Then reverse engineer your number. I'm available all the time. 704-773-0722. That's my phone number. And 0722. Yeah. And you can reach me on Facebook, Messenger. Yeah. If I can help anybody out, let me know. If I can help save you some money just by sharing my own experiences, let me know. Again, I don't have all the answers. If you're only listening to one person to get all the answers, you're going to lose. That's why it's so important to create a good team there. Yeah.
Maybe this is a question for a CPA, but I'm going to ask you that one. How far from filing the tax like in April now?
Mhm.
Can we use LLC and incorporate what you have?
That is a CPA question. I have no idea. What's it? Yeah, we had a longer due diligence period on that one, though. I think we kicked it out. Was it? Yeah. You can turn it. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.